Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today, I want to do something a bit different. I just want to talk about this article that I found on Yahoo. And this article has to do with Amazon's Lord of the Woke series, which is what I'm going to call it from henceforward. And for the most part, or I should say, normally on this channel, I just I type what I want to say and then read it out to everybody, but what I want to do now is read this article and just comment on it as I go. So this article is called Amazon's Lord of the Rings team knew they'd face Tolkien fan backlash over diverse casting. And what's interesting about this is the date it was published was February 10th, 2022. And I'm not sure when exactly the first reveal came with the Vanity Fair article, but I think it's the same day. So it's the same day, or maybe it's the next day. And I find it interesting because it seems like they reacted to what we were going to say, or they reacted to our reaction, or they had their reaction prepared for our reaction in advance of it. So that being said, I'm just going to read this article and comment as I go. So it says Amazon Prime's videos Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power premieres on the streaming platform September 2nd, but already J.R.R. Tolkien fans are criticizing casting choices. Yes, well, that's not all that we're criticizing, and as soon as you reveal more, and certainly after this series comes out, assuming you guys still release it, you can be sure there will be a good deal more criticism. I don't know how much more I'm going to say about it because I have no plans to watch this series. And in general, for my channel, I try to focus on things that I like rather than things that I don't like, and things that I find inspirational rather than things that I find horrific. But since I am such a very big Tolkien fan, I have to say something about this. So let us continue with this. Vanity Fair exclusively debuted first look images of the upcoming series featuring 22 lead cast members and multiple storylines ranging from deep within the dwarf mines of the Misty Mountains to the high politics. Oh, great politics! To the high politics of the elven kingdom of Lindon and humans' powerful Atlantis-like island, Numenor. Let's see. Showrunners Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne were well aware of the pressures of creating a spin-off from the iconic series. The Amazon series features a wide range of diverse stars in Middle-earth. What? There's the Sylvan elf Arondir, played by Ismael Cruz Cordova, the first person of color to play an elf in a Tolkien screen project. So that's the thing about these people. These sorts of people who are making most of the corporate productions these days in what used to be American entertainment. They are not so much interested in making something good, and certainly not in making something original, and certainly not in doing a accurate adaptation, a faithful adaptation of something from history or literature or mythology. They are interested in firsts, and it gives to me the appearance of conquest. Like when they take over something, they like to market in some way. And that's always what happens, or often what happens with conquerors in history. Usually, when you get conquered by some other group, they'll come and they'll put their mark on your country. They might destroy some historical site, some monument, some temple, some church. They'll do something, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why For example, the noses and arms are knocked off of so many statues. That stuff usually happens following a conflict where the new group, the new power, asserts their dominance over the people that they just conquered. And they know that those people don't want to see their artwork get vandalized, which is why they do it. They're letting those people know, hey, we're in charge. See what we're doing to your stuff? There's nothing you can do about it. That's pretty much the way I see this. So, okay. There's Bronwyn, a human healer played by British-Iranian actor Nazanin Bonjati. All right, so it's funny the way they say a human healer. It makes me think of Elder Scrolls Online, like the role that you'd have going into a dungeon, something like that. My wife, she likes to play. She likes to play the healer role. I personally don't have the patience for that kind of thing, but it sounds like, I don't know, a human healer. Whatever. Okay. Sophia Nomvit as the first black woman playing a dwarf in a Lord of the Rings project, and more. So the and more means that they've got a lot of other things to show us, and we're probably not going to like those things. At least that's what I take from this. And okay, the first black woman playing a dwarf. That's what these people are about firsts. They don't care about the material. They don't understand the material. They don't understand the source material. They probably actually think that they're making it better. They have contempt for the source material and the people who care about it. All right, moving on. It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like, said Lindsay Weber, executive producer of the series. It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like. How does it feel natural? Okay, why? That's what I would ask. Why? And okay, what the world actually looks like. Which part of the world? All right, which part of the world? Because different parts of the world are different. I wonder how much of the world these people have actually seen. Because looking at their creation, it doesn't look like where I live. It also doesn't look like India. I don't see any Indians there. That's totally different demographics. It doesn't look like America. You need to have more Hispanics. So, if you're going to achieve that, I guess it looks like New Zealand, if that's where it's being shot. 21st century New Zealand. And that's the thing. Okay, so you want it to look like the world. So are they going to go and get a coffee at a Starbucks? Are they going to have cars, airplanes, cell phones, computer? Because just about one thing that's pretty common in a lot of the world is cell phones. So where's their cell phones? So when it comes to these kind of people, what they say is one thing, and what their real motives are is something else. That's what I've found. Okay, so let's see more of her declaration here. She says Tolkien is for everyone. Okay, sure. Because he wrote, all right, I'll read the whole thing. Tolkien is for everyone. His stories are about his fictional races doing their best work when they leave the isolation of their own cultures and come together. No, you misunderstood. That is 21st century left-wing political messaging. And it's also an overly simplistic view of the world. So you misunderstood Tolkien. All right, what he said, you haven't read the Tolkien letters, because what he said is it's a battle against evil. And the big thing that causes the world to change from the Third Age to the Fourth is that evil is no longer incarnate. the physical body of Sauron is destroyed. All right. So, and the Nazgul along with him, they also dissolve. So you missed the point. That's wrong. That's not true. That's not what Tolkien said. You got to read the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien if you want to understand him. But of course, she has no interest. Lindsay Weber has no interest to understand Tolkien. Her interest is to use his name as a platform for the ideas of her political faction. It's repurposing something to be used as propaganda. That's what it is. All right, moving on. But not everyone is set on the casting of the elves. While the studio originally released a photo of its multicultural cast. So I feel like somebody should tell these people that there's a difference between race and culture. All right. You can have people that are different races but have the same culture. You can have people that are the same race and have different cultures and hate each other. Look at the Balkans. Okay? So they don't even... All right, okay. They don't even know how to talk. Right. Amazon was immediately met with vitriolic online trolling as fans took to social media to slam certain roles. And you guys had this article ready to go out the same day as the reveal. How did you know there was going to be a negative response unless that was your plan all along to elicit a negative response? I think it was. Obviously, there was going to be pushback and backlash. Yeah, because you guys are taking something we like and turning it into something that we don't recognize. You have come into our space without understanding it, without understanding J.R.R. Tolkien, his motives, and his work, and you haven't bothered to do your research. Otherwise, you wouldn't make these kind of assertions. What it's really about now. Read his letters. Obviously, there was going to be push and backlash. Okay, push and backlash. Tolkien scholar Mariana Rios Maldonado told Vanity Fair. But the question is, from whom? Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian? Okay, so there's like so much here that's wrong, and that I'm having a hard time actually just quickly responding to this. So, first of all, what do the elves really look like? Well, you have to read the Silmarillion, and it's also good if you read the extended lore, the histories of the Middle Earth. I think if you were before engaging in a serious undertaking like this, you would read the histories of the Middle Earth cover to cover if you really want to understand this universe. And you need to read all of the completed, obviously start with the completed canon lore, like Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings. Then move on to the histories of the Middle Earth. And he does describe what these people look like. All right, so the Noldor, they have pale skin and usually black hair, and they're tall. Vanyar, they have, again, pale skin, usually blonde hair. They're called the Fair Elves because they have almost entirely blonde hair. Then you have the Teleri, who it's not really specified. I mean, they have all sorts of different hair colors and eye colors, but all these people they have European type phenotype. I mean, it is stated if you read the books, and it is true that in Middle Earth there's a continent that corresponds somewhat to Africa, but to know what lives there, you've got to read the histories of the Middle Earth, and then to even understand that, you've got to start reading some other mythology. So I'll give you guys a hint. I'll give you guys a free one if anybody from the Great Corporation is listening. All right? The original Eärendil story Earendel, he was going to have a great voyage all around the world, not just in the part that corresponds with Europe. He was also going to go to the part that roughly resembles Africa in shape and in location. And it's stated in those early drafts, which you can read about in the Lost Tales books. There's different life forms there. Treemen, Sarquindi, which means cannibal ogres, and pygmies. All right. So what does that mean? You probably don't even know unless you study greater mythology, Greek mythology, and European mythology of the Middle Ages. So there's a small group of, there's in Greek mythology and all the way up into medieval mythology, you had these small beings called pygmies, okay, come from the Greek word pygmaioi, where supposedly there was a race of small people that lived to the south of Ethiopia, or to the south of the headwaters of the Nile, and they fought with cranes. All right, and then medieval writers added more to this myth, talking about how they lived in houses and they had tiny animals and all this sort of stuff, like what they like to do. So Sarquindi corresponds roughly with a medieval myth called Anthropophagus, which was a man-eater that lived in Africa, supposedly. Some kind of humanoid creature which actually ate humans and wasn't necessarily human, but more like an ogre. And treemen, that's probably ants of some kind. So I don't even know if there's elves there. Probably not. So what's the problem with of doing this? Well, because it doesn't match with the established lore. There's no harm in saying, Tolkien's world is really cool. We could explore other parts of it. Why not do that? Then you can cast people appropriate to those parts of the world. Latino. Her name is Mariana Rios Maldonado. She doesn't know what a Latino is. That's interesting because that refers to people in the Western Hemisphere, which doesn't even exist in Tolkien's world. The Americas do not exist until after the downfall of Numenor and the reshaping of the world. All right, so moving along. Next, Asian. I mean, you could there again. It would be cool to see the East. There probably are some type of Asian people in the far east of the Middle Earth. It would be cool to see that. And of course, in China, they have their own legends about immortals. Emperor Qin, Ying Zheng, the man who unified China. Since I'm talking to Hollywood people, the main villain of the Hero movie with Jet Li. So that guy was a real person. And as he got older, he was looking for immortals. And immortals were such a component, a well-known component of Chinese folk beliefs during that time, that he seriously thought they existed and spent actual tax money on trying to find them in an attempt to extend his life. So I'm sure Tolkien knew about that. That's probably why that could be a reason why he set the origin point of the elves in the Far East. Cuiviénen is pretty far to the east, almost to the east coast. All right, so let's continue on with their wonderful article. Director J.A. Bayona likened the plot of Rings of Power to that of his own cultural growing up in Spain. Director J.A. Bayona. What is he doing? Oh, he's directing this? To that of his own cultural background growing up in Spain. We had a dictatorship for 40 years, so you notice the repercussions of war and the shadow of the past, said Bayona, who directs the first 2 episodes. I think this is all about the repercussions of war. There is an idea that feels very faithful to... Okay, I gotta say, I can't... All right, so if you notice, these people always have, I shouldn't say always, often, frequently have to put themselves, for whatever reason, they like to make things about themselves. They like to put themselves into the work. There was something, and I used to be a DC fan and a Marvel fan. I've long since checked out altogether from that. But there was something in a DC that this author, she came out with this character, I Am Not Starfire or something, and the character looked exactly like the writer. Like, why did these people? I don't know why they do it, but they like to put themselves into whatever it is they're doing. Author inserts or putting some aspect of their personality over it. Like if it's your original property, you can do whatever you want. It won't be good, but I won't care what you do. But this is not your property, all right? So it doesn't fit to shove all this stuff into it. I think this is all about the repercussions of war. There is an idea that feels very faithful to Tolkien, which is intuition. Galadriel has an intuition that things are not fixed, and there is still something lurking. Again, putting yourself into it. Why not just make something original? All right. There's all sorts of other fictitious universes that have been created with elves, dwarves, halflings, orcs. Tolkien invented orcs, by the way. So without him, think about it. Without him, there'd be no Warcraft, no Elder Scrolls at all, or at least it wouldn't have orcs in it. No Dungeons and Dragons, no Raid Shadow Legends, a lot of stuff. Those are just what I can think of off the top of my head. But Tolkien invented orcs. He doesn't, and somehow they didn't keep the rights to them. So there's nothing to stop you from making your own original universe with different species, and you can give them whatever phenotype you want. When I started playing Elder Scrolls, I was actually a little bit put off by the physical appearance of the elves in that game at first, but then I kind of got used to it. I'm like, all right, it's cool, But at any rate, moving on. Bayona added, "Can you imagine going back to such a beloved world and facing the high bar of Peter Jackson movies? We are, all the time, very aware of the massive expectations." So, as I suspected, most of their knowledge, and you can't see me doing finger quotes, but that's what I'm doing, most of their so-called knowledge of Tolkien comes from the movies. So these guys didn't read the books. They're making a modified copy of a modified copy. Amazon is set to release the first teaser trailer for Amazon is set to release the first teaser trailer for the Rings of Power during Super Bowl LVI. All right, so why? Is there an overlap between your audience and their audience? I don't know. But whatever, I think the best thing that Amazon should do or could do would be to apologize for this and clean it up, like start over again and make it align with the books. Bring some actual Tolkien fans on board. Of course, they're not going to do that. And they seem to be very stubborn and fixed on doing what they're going to do. They knew we weren't going to like it. They prepared a response in advance. There's name calling and all sorts of other things, So these people are not Tolkien fans. They're not. A real Tolkien fan doesn't sit there and think, how can I improve upon Tolkien? How can I change this? How can I put myself into it? How can I put my messages into this? All that kind of stuff. That's not a Tolkien fan. A real Tolkien fan would be like, wow, how can I really like this. How can I adapt it in a way that is faithful and accurate as possible to the original stories, but able to fit the time frame and format of a screen? I understand some changes have to be done, because in a book you can shift the perspective around as you're writing, and you can also reveal things. But in the movie, you have to show everything, and the same for a show. But these people are not even trying. I believe they're actually just. I think this is about cultural conquest, and it just, the only thing I don't understand is, why did they spend so much money on this? Is a waste of money. They're not going to recuperate the money that they invested in this, and they should have known that by the way that movies have been doing for the last few years in Hollywood. The people don't want to keep seeing this stuff. I like my escapism to be escapist. I also like it to be uplifting. So I hope that after this travesty is released and the money is demonstrably wasted, that this will be the end of it, that nobody will try again. I really wish it would just stop. Nobody asked for this. Nobody wants this. And it's unfortunate because now the technology exists to depict everything in Tolkien's universe. You don't even have to do actors anymore. Like, you could make seamless CGI. Have some characters, you could make a character just CGI, and the average person would not be able to tell which is which. Technology is there to make anything, to depict anything in the movies. But rather than choosing to do that, they're choosing to depict something. They're choosing to go in the opposite direction and depict something that's not there, to make it look like something else that it was not intended to be. And like I said before, it's not going to just be a few geographically inappropriate demographic changes that breaks the immersion experience because it's unrealistic and it's anachronistic. It's also going to be a swath of politics and reinterpretations, taking the names that they did not invent and places that they did not invent, and using it as a stage to present propaganda that Tolkien never would have approved of and certainly never intended. And by the way, Tolkien also had thoughts about communism. He did say what he thought about it in his letters. Again, these guys have not read the letters. I think the extent of their research was just watching the Peter Jackson movies, which that's not research. That's like less than reading the Cliff's Notes. So, at any rate, I just wanted to get this out of my system. This will probably be the last video like this that I do. I do want to focus on good things rather than bad things. And I think after having said this, this might be all that needs to be said about this topic. So, I think I will conclude it. If you've listened all the way to the end, then thanks for listening, and do leave me some feedback. This video is a little different because I just sat in front of my computer and straight recorded the whole thing. I didn't write a script or anything like that. So you guys are getting my thoughts as they come.